Okay, it's about 1 o'clock, or actually 1 minute after. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm glad, thank you guys for joining me today. I'm Scott Fogelman. I've been with Keller Williams since 2010. I was actually helped bring the franchise here to, I guess, west of Charlottesville, and very grateful to Teresa and Tina, and of course, everybody else for being part of this. I'm going to pick up where I guess, and we'll probably cover a little bit of what was left over from the last class. I presume you guys either were attended or had watched the video from it. What's great is you can actually go back, since we're recording these, as you know, and they're putting them on YouTube. You can go back and watch it anytime. And it's something great for you to do at night or whenever you can't talk to clients, kind of look and think about your business and how to get your business to the next level. Today, we're going to talk primarily about the expansion model. I do want us to take a couple steps back into some of the other areas, just so we make sure, because one of the biggest keys to expansion, it basically is if you have a weakness in your business before you go into an expansion, that weakness becomes even bigger in expansion. So you guys kind of start off, well, what exactly is expansion? Expansion is where you basically kind of recreate a whole team in a total different market. And I'm not talking like going from Lynchburg to Roanoke, because that can still be part of the same team. What I mean is, say that you're here in Lynchburg and you want to put a team in Boise, Idaho, or Los Angeles, California, or something like that. So that is creating a whole new team into a different market. There are a couple of agents out there who have done this and have done it very well, where they have multiple expansion teams in a lot of different places. So Wendy Papazen, Ben Kinney, there's Adam Herderother, all of them have multiple teams in different places, and each team works a little bit differently, but they're all successful in the multiple locations. So again, going back to it, the biggest thing is making sure you do the right thing and get yourself started off well in the current market before you expand to other markets. And what I mean by that is you want to have somewhat of a market dominance, and you have all your systems and have everything in place, in your local market before you try and expand out to a bigger area. Because, if it's a 2-hour drive or a 4-hour flight or something like that, how much time can you spend going back and forth? I mean, it just makes it harder. And then, video and telephones can help, but it's just not the same as, being able to sit down with your people and get things organized and together there in person. So as part of the 6th level and the 7th level, you replace yourself. You basically hire a CEO to kind of take care of you, take care of the business, and so you work less and less. As you step into the next level, which go into expansion, you basically hire a director of expansion, and you end up hiring and finding partners in local markets. So it's almost like you're hiring a CEO for that particular market in each area. So you're going to hire somebody to run that portion of your company for you. I'm going to pull up some slides here so you guys can see some of those. There's a few slides that we have on this, and pull it up so you can see that. So on the 7th level, you can see the areas of mastery. So this is where you replace yourself, and you hire your director of expansion, and then you also hire CEOs in the individual locations. The biggest thing is making sure that everyone keeps up to the same par and the same level of what you're used to. You set a standard and hold everybody to that same standard. Set expectations, and that's the same expectations for everybody. So now, as part of that expansion model, we look at it a little bit closer. You have the expansion hub, and then you have the listing leads and agents. So you're basically going to set it up to where you have, you can do a couple different things. What a great thing a lot of people do is, for economy of scale, they'll set up lead generation, such as virtual assistants, and they can call into any market from wherever they are. So you might have virtual assistants here in Lynchburg, and you decide you're going to move into New York City. So you can have your virtual assistants calling leads in New York City and different places. So it makes it easy for you to replicate the business without having to expend as much more. So you don't have to build all new pieces and parts, but you can use some of the current pieces and parts and expand them into other areas, if that makes sense. So something I did learn a long time ago, a couple of really important things about when it comes to building teams. First thing, and number one thing, is that your most valuable asset are your leads, the names, your database. Those names in your database, if you know what your average commission is, each one of those listings is worth at least that commission, at least one sale, maybe two or three. So before you start just handing out leads like they're Skittles, you might want to think, well, hey, that's $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 lead. So maybe, you hire a buyer's agent, and as they get going, maybe they're not quite as good. So you only give them 1 or 2 leads to begin with, let them, get better. You don't want to give them 25, get them overwhelmed, because then they get kind of cherry pick, and then some people will get worked on, some people don't. And next thing you know, a lead you gave out tells you, hey, I'm going to unsubscribe because I just bought a house with, Joe Schmo down the street. And you're kind of upset with your buyer's agent because you just lost out on some money. So again, these are all about systems, getting your standards and your systems standards in place, and knowing, what you expect of people. So if you have too many leads, that's a good problem to have. And then you end up, like your buyer agents pick and choose, and you lose deals. And if you don't have enough leads, then you lose buyer agents and you lose team members too. So it's kind of a balance, and you want to grow as you go. You're going to grow organically, and as you get bigger, again, these issues will come up. If you don't address them early, they'll keep coming up and keep getting worse and worse and worse. And expansion just makes it so much more worse. So let's talk about some organizational model, some organizational traps as we get into expansion. These are probably some of the same traps that you came into as you looked at some of the earlier systems, like when you started expanding, or you started becoming a team, when you hired buyer agents, when you hired admin, those types of things. So one of the most important things to do is look at the career visioning class and the 30, 60, 90 class. Make sure you take these classes and understand. And if you're familiar with career visioning, it's where you give them a test. Crystal can help you, can give you a link to that test and give it to you. Of course, Alice can also help you. And it's a good idea to have your team leader or somebody else interview the person. So if you decide, hey, I think this person might be right for a certain position, have them take the test, and then have them come in and interview with some other people too. Gary Keller tells us to be slow to hire and fast to fire. He also says, don't judge us by the people we hire, judge us by the people we keep. So if you hire somebody, sometimes you make a mistake. I can tell you, I've made a lot of mistakes in the people I've hired, and you feel terrible when you have to let them go, because you're thinking, well, this is their livelihood, but if they're not working for the position, they're not working for the position. And really, when it comes down to it, is I made a mistake initially in hiring these people. And so I had to, toughen up and just, give them an opportunity to find gainful employment someplace else that might be better suited for their talents and for their skills. So career visioning will help you get through that process and understand more about how to hire the right people and what to look for, because one of the biggest problems is we hire people we like, and that's a lot of times that's not the right personality what you're looking for. So definitely use career visioning, and 30, 60, 90 is part of the Leverage series. There's also some information out there that talks about like your first 100 days, like things you want to have happen with a new hire in their first 100 days, and set standards. What do you expect? If someone shows up on day one, you might, do they have any leads for you? It's not unreasonable to expect them to have leads. They have a network of people that they know. So you need to have those names and enter them to the database, especially if you're talking with an agent. I mean, you got to let them find some people to talk to. So they're going to need people to contact and reach out to. And it's a great way for them to get started, get their feet on the ground. A couple other traps is not watching your budget. It's very easy for agents to just kind of lose track of how much they're making and not follow their budget, and they're spending more. This is the time of year right now, September, where I don't know about you guys, my phone is ringing all the time, but someone's selling me something that's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and everyone's telling me the same sales pitch. But you only buy things you need. Don't get distracted by the shiny things. Make sure it's something you want, make sure it solves a problem, and then figure out what do you expect for return for that. So if I'm spending $1, I don't want to get $1 back. If I'm spending $1, I expect between $3 and $6 back on return on my investment. So make sure you spend your money wisely. As we talked about budget and money, this is all stuff you covered before, but make sure you have a P&L. Make sure you balance your account monthly. Unfortunately, several agents have gone in and started to balance their account and found that money's missing. And if you're not watching these things, this is something that's real easy to disappear. Someone could be stealing money from you. Or it could be, you're wasting money on things that you don't use. Agents are notoriously bad about you sign up for something and you forget about it and it just gets charged your card every month. And you're like, oh, next month I'll deal with it. Next month I'll deal with it. Next month I'll deal with it. A great tip I learned one time at a KW event was someone said that make sure that your business credit card that you use has an expiration date for 1 year. So at the end of every year, anybody that you're using or anybody you signed up with has to call you up to renew. And you have to sit there and think about, well, is this a service I'm using and am I getting a return on it? It may or may not be something that you want to renew with. So you can just, so that's just another little tip of a way to kind of save you some money. But getting back, run a P&L, there's a lot of different programs out there you can use. If you're not familiar with profit and loss, definitely sit down and talk to Crystal. I'm always happy to show you what I use. I use QuickBooks. You don't have to use anything that extreme. It's a little bit of overkill for me. There's all kinds of financial programs out there. Ment's free to use. You can use that. Quicken, and then I think Microsoft has a product also. And some people just use straight spreadsheets or the old-fashioned paper ledgers. Just kind of check their balances. Skipping levels, don't jump too fast. Make sure you kind of follow the models. As a person who's deviated from the models and paid for it, I would advise you follow the models every time. Don't think buyer agents cost you nothing and hire them like they're candy because they cost you a lot. And definitely make sure you have the admin staff in place because that's your most important asset. Admin staff, a good admin pays for themselves and just in the time saved. So, and then we talked again earlier about having solid systems, especially for lead generation and for conversion. You want these systems to be replicable and scalable. So as you get bigger, so you want to be able to recreate this system over and over and over, and you want to be able to scale it and scale it up. So can you train your new hire to do this or train this person to do that? So we'll make sure you can do all those. So and don't think about hiring just for the sake of having a larger team. Unfortunately, there was a good friend of mine, they went to a conference, they decided to have a big team, went out and hired a whole bunch of people. And it looked really good for a short period of time, but then the money ran out. And all of a sudden, they just had to go out and turn around and release a whole bunch of people all in one day. And, I don't know, I felt bad for everybody on the team. And of course, especially the admin staff, who, the least the agents could go out and sell something to make money, but the rest of the people, they were out in the cold. So go slowly. Again, back to what I said earlier on, be slow to hire and quick to fire. So, all right. So expansion model, as we talked about before, is just a way to recreate the current team you have in a different marketplace. So the model is a culmination of all the previous models, and you're perfected your economic model, your lead generation model, and performing it as you want, and you're managing your budget and your expenses, then you've got an organization model built out. Now you just want to apply these 4 models into additional businesses, okay? You definitely want to make sure you have a successful business currently and that you have some market domination. Now you have to determine what you consider market domination. For some people, that could mean you have a 3% market share. For some people, it could mean we have a 30% market share. Now, as an agent, if you have a 30% market share in any market, that's pretty good. 3% is usually pretty good too, but 30% is pretty incredible. I don't know if anybody actually has that. So also keep in mind, you can't hire your way into different levels and to getting it into expansion. And of course, all the models must work for you. There is a special course. Cody Gibson actually was just promoted to the Director of Expansion Systems. And Cody actually has kind of a large expansion team. So he's probably a great person for this position since he's actually done it. And there's a course actually called Expansion Systems Orientation. Great class to take. So if you decide you want to get into expansion and look into doing that, then take that class first, before you start actually trying to invest in that. So Keller Williams has a system for expansion, and you can become part of the expansion program. So it's a 3-step process. Develop the hub, your lead generation and administrative systems which are repeatable, elastic, and documented. Test and tweak your models, and then build out a region. So you want to build out the area and always be testing and tweaking your model. So if you feel like you're doing something pretty well, then how can you make it better? What's a way to improve this, or how do you improve that? Definitely look at ways of improving yourself and your business at all times. So of course, also keep in mind that the KW expansion model allows you're pretty much unlimited. As far as you can be as big as you want to be and go as far as you want to. It's one thing about Keller Williams is, there's a lot of different ways to make money in this industry, and Keller Williams is open to all of them. So however you want to make money, they're okay with as long as you're doing something legal, they're fine with it. So lots of ways to expand. So looking at the model again, we talked about the lead generation system and the admin team systems, looking at listing leads, agents. Obviously, you want to be able to funnel all your leads to your agents. It used to be originally that you had just buyer agents only, and that the main agent took care of listings, but nowadays we allow everyone to take care of listings. So talk to your team person though, in terms of that. So Tracy, I'm going to put you on mute. So now, so your organization model. So one of the things that you want to do before you decide to expand, and really at any time, is sit down and plan your organization model. So what you technically want to have is 2 different organization models. So what is where you are currently, and where do you plan to be in the future? So how does an expansion fit into your plans, and what do you need to do as part of your expansion? What types of things do you need? Like how many leads do you need? How many agents do you need? How big of a team do you want to be there? What type of people do you need to have? Do you need admin staff there? How much staff, and what about marketing people? All those types of things. Things you want to think about. So you should have a couple pages in your book that allow you to do some of this work. And what I want you to do is actually sit down and look at your current organization, like where are you currently? And then you want to plan out where you want to be in the future. And you might even think of a lot of different positions that other people don't think about, and that you might want to need. A marketing manager, a listing manager. There's a lot of different positions, like events organization or events organizer. So I don't know if you guys want to do this in class, and we can take like 5 minutes and do that, but I'm thinking probably we can do this a little bit later on. You can do this after we're done with class. You can do this on your own time. And also part of that, as part of your business plan, what are your areas of mastery? So as we look at this page, and let's see, I'm not sure if we have a slide on the page or not, but no, okay, we don't. I'll pick it up and show you the page here. Maybe you have that in your book. But what are your areas of mastery? Sit down and rate yourself. How are you at lead generation? How are you at presentations? Do you practice your presentations? It's something you really should do. Sit down and practice your presentations. Yeah, it looks like you do have it in your book, 16.6.15 for your rating system. So how are your presentations to buyers and the sellers to get an appointment? How are your scripts when you're calling for appointments? So writing, negotiating contracts, rate yourself, take an honest assessment of yourself and use that to work on how you're going to be for the future. One of the things we do know is that perfect practice makes perfect. So if you sit down and you figure out what the perfect presentation looks like, then you need to make sure you can do that perfect presentation. And you need to practice it so it comes off like the back of your hand. So when someone disrupts you, or throws you off, you can get right back to where you are. You don't get flustered. You don't get lost on what you're doing. You can pick it up and you can continue it. And that could be a buyer presentation or it could be a seller presentation. So writing negotiating contracts, how well do you know your contracts? You want to make sure you know them very well. You want to know them that if someone says, hey, what's in, I have a question about paragraph 3, you can say, okay, well, great. What's, you know exactly what paragraph 3 covers and what needs to be done, what their question is. So coordinating sales to closing. By the time you hit this stage, you'll probably have a closing coordinator or a listing coordinator, and you want to make sure that they can run their job and do their job very smoothly. Getting someone, house under contract is only half the battle. That's the easy and the fun part, is getting it from under contract to getting it closed is always the hard part and the not so glamorous part. A lot of people, I often say that if I do my job really well, you don't think I've done anything. And that's because, you want that closing process to go smooth. But things come up. There's a lot of things that can go wrong once you get a house under contract. So you can't eliminate all the problems, but you can minimize them and you can solve them as quick as possible and keep the process going and keep people moving forward. So managing the money. Managing the money is huge. You want to make sure that your money is being used in a good way. You want to make sure that you're paying your people fairly, and you want to make sure that you have money at the end of the day for your profit. Hiring. How are you at hiring? If you've never done it before, then you definitely, and even if you have, you still want to take the career visioning course. And before you hire somebody, you may want to sit down and do a lot of practice interviews. Interview other agents, talk to them, interview other people. Make sure you're not hiring someone just because you like them, as I talked about before. So training, if you're as you expand your team and grow your team, you have to provide training for your team. So you need to have a plan for that. What's your first week look like for a new buyer's agent, a new admin staff? Do you have a team manual? Do you have a team plan? What is your regiment? Do you have meetings on a regular basis? What are you expecting? So you have that, and also the next section is accountability. You want to rate yourself. Where do you feel on your own accountability? Where do you feel on accountability to other people? Are you hiring people who want to be held accountable? Or are you hiring people that just want to collect a paycheck and not do anything? That's something you might want to think about. So if you're really honest with yourself in those 9 areas, then you need to make a plan. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And how do you improve those weaknesses? Some areas you might be able to hire somebody who's better qualified to take care of those areas for you. Some areas you might have to just means to take classes. So you might not need to be, if you're an agent, a lot of agents we call are high I, they're highly interactive and they're really bad at the paperwork. So you hire somebody who's good at paperwork and takes care of that, and have them create a manual so they know exactly what they're doing, and check up on them, hold them accountable, but let them do what they're good at, which is doing the paperwork. And you probably aren't good at that. So then you also, now that you know kind of what you're good at and what you're bad at, you create what you want your future organization to look like. How many staff members do you have? How many buyer's agents? Where's the location? What market you're going to move into? How do the individual areas work together? So do you have like one person as an expansion manager, or do you have a CEO kind of controlling over top the 2 different areas? So the model shows you certain ways of doing it. Sometimes people veer a little bit. I don't always recommend it. But sometimes, and if somebody leaves, what about cross training so that other people can help out? So that's an important thing to do. Probably by now, I hope you've seen the Build Your 411. It's down here on the screen I'm sharing down here, a small version on the bottom left, talking about your turn. And action worksheet. Hopefully you have one in your book. I don't think it's on there. No, it's not showing up. I'm sorry, because my background I'm using. But the 411 is part of your plan for, basically breaks it down. What is your daily goal? So what is your annual goal? What is your monthly goal? And what is your weekly goal? So if your annual goal is to make $100,000, then how much money do you need to make this month, which is going to be about roughly about $8,000, right? All right, so if you need to make $8,000 this month, that means you may need to make $2,000 this week. Well, what are you going to do this week to make $2,000? How many people do you need to meet to get a sale? And how many sales do you need to make a close? And how many closings do you have to make that much money? So, you basically want to sit down and figure those numbers out. There's some conversion rates. There's a whole class on this that we talk about how to figure out how many different leads you need and how many different people you need to talk to. And that's a great class and something you want to sit down and really kind of figure out. All right, so after we're done here, you're just going to sit down and you're going to do your business plan for your current situation and business plan for your future situation and where you want to be. And how you're going to get there. So you create a plan. If you decide you want to expand in 2 different markets, what is your plan for doing that? What is your time frame? And what do you need to do between now and then? So to say 2 years, all right, so what do you need to change in the next month or next 6 months in order to get those added spaces, added people, and added 2 more different market centers? Let's see. So as we talk about future, so you have the 4 and 1. So now, any questions anybody have so far? I do talk kind of fast, so I apologize. So if you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask them. I'm gonna cut my screen down here so you guys can see that. Anybody have any questions or anything? That we have the chat section on the side. This is kind of a shorter section. And the next thing you're going to talk to during the next meeting is section 7. We're putting it all together. I think Teresa's supposed to teach that, and that should be really good. That's kind of a culmination of everything and putting it all together. So for us, kind of finishing up some of the things is we want to talk about what drives a business. Obviously, leads, people, and market. So leads and leverage, and the market drives business. Right now, as everyone knows, we're in a seller's market. We're seeing appreciation on properties of about 1% per month. So if you bought a property a year ago, theoretically it's worth about $10,000 more, 10% more, than it was the same time last year. And we don't know where it's going to next year, but hopefully it'll continue this way. We talked about the hiring process. Career visioning kind of goes through that whole process with you, and you want to take the career visioning class, which one of the first things they'll do is you'll do a test on you, KW test, and that's the same test you're going to give to anybody that you're interested in hiring, and it'll tell you what they're good at and what they're not good at, and whether this is a good fit for the position that you're hiring for. So learn the hiring path, set a standard, what you're looking for employees, and hold to that standard. And some of the traps to avoid, like I mentioned, I made a mistake of hiring people I liked, as opposed to hiring the best person for the job. And I also made a mistake that, at one point in time, I had a bunch of buyer's agents. They weren't producing anything, but I was giving them quality leads, and there was no production. So I realized that, what am I giving them quality leads for? They're not going to do anything with them. So I stopped doing that. So, and also technology. I'm sure we've talked a lot about Command throughout this whole course, and you're familiar with Command. I hope we're going to do some more classes on Command. Of course, there's all types of online training through Scott Leroy and through KW International. Command is pretty impressive. They're making improvements all the time, so it's really great now. I can't wait to see as new things come out. Has even more capabilities. You want to make sure to put everybody in your database. Your database is kind of like a child. You got to feed it every day. The more you feed it, the more items you put into it, the bigger it gets, and the more business you'll get out of it. So definitely feed your database and talk to your database, because that's really, that's your business. If you don't have a database, you're not feeding it, you're not talking to it, communicating with it on a regular basis, your business is not going to be there. Somebody else is going to sell these people. and you're gonna be wondering why they bought from somebody else because you didn't call them or follow up with them. So any questions, any big ahas, anything anybody want to ask or discuss? Again, I apologize. I know I go fast. I talk fast. So anything you want to ask me or cover? If you're trying to talk, most everybody's on mute. So just unmute yourself if you have anything you want to ask or say, or you can type into the chat section too. I'll wait just another minute. So. Okay, so before the next meeting, go ahead and fill out your organizational plan for your current situation and what you want to be for the future. So you can start building out that plan. Also go ahead and do a 411. Should be doing a 411 every week, and kind of set it up yourself for the at the end of the week so you can set yourself up for the week going forward. I think Teresa may even ask for some of those so they can see those. Let's see. COVID is, I was telling Shalai earlier, COVID's kind of going crazy. The Virginia VAR conference that's held annually, they just announced about 2 hours ago that they're canceled that one for this month. So not just Mega Camp, the VAR conference is canceled. And let's see, no other big announcements, I don't think. So I think we have hopefully we have another team meeting coming up with the COVID getting bad again. I'm not sure, the hospitals here locally are pretty full, so we'll see. So definitely be extra smart. And if there's no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And I appreciate you watching it. It'll be available for replay, so you can watch again. And also, I'm usually around the office. You can always call me with any questions. Look forward to seeing you guys in person. So have a great day.